A blessed morning to everyone. I am Dizon Rina from BED2B. Have you experienced going to the library before? Or having a bedtime story with your mom when you were a kid? Because for today, we will going to discuss classical literary pieces written in the local setting that are appropriate for a specific grade level. The term classical literature refers to the great masterpiece of Greek, Roman, and other ancient civilization. This term is not just limited to novels, it can also include epic, lyric, tragedy, comedy, pastoral, and other forms of writing. The term classical is also used for the literature of any language in a period notable for the excellence and enduring quality of its writer's work. While when we say classics, these are this is a term most readers are probably familiar with. These are the older books that retain their popularity, are always to be considered among classics. The distinction between classical and classics is that when we say classics, refers to the quality, excellence, and timelessness of the literature. When we say classical, it refers to the antiquity, archetype, and influence of the literature. Now, let's discuss the classical literary pieces written in the local setting that are appropriate for a specific grade level. So these classical literature that we were going to discuss for today are mostly short and captivating. These are based on children's interests. These are combination of visual and verbal narrative. So for grade 1 to grade 3, these are the list of classical literature. Tuko and the Birds, a tale from the Philippines written by Shirley Climo and Francisco Mora. This is a story of birds who sings for the people of Maynilad on the Philippines, island of Luzon, to sleep at night until Tuko, the haughty gecko, prevents the birds from doing their job. Until then, everyone was miserable from lack of sleep. That is until Haribon, the eagle, devised a plan to trick Tuko into leaving for good. Next is The Legend of Juan Pawikan and the 7,107 Islands, written by Celine Beatrice Fabi. This story is about life of Juan Pawikan, a brave and curious sea turtle that pursued his dream against all odds. Juan Pawikan and the Philippine 7,107 islands can can remind us to pursue our passion, our freedom, and all that is beautiful. Next is The Monkey and the Crocodile, written by Paul Galdone. This story is about a crocodile who lives in a riverbank, befriends a monkey living on a tree on the riverbank. The monkey shares the fruit of the tree with the crocodile, who takes a share for his wife. The greedy wife, who loves the sweetness of the fruit, craved from the monkey's heart that she thought would be sweeter. Next is The Hating Kapatid, written by Raisa Rivera. This story is about an aunt who learns about the real meaning of sharing with sibling. The younger aunt always shares his food with his brother, but he always asks, why is his share is bigger than mine? Is that what fair share means? Next classical literature is Si Pagong at si Matching, written by Virgilio Almario. This is a story about the monkey, known for his intelligence and cunning, and a turtle who is wit and clever. They saw a floating, uprooted banana tree on the river. They decided to split the tree, with the monkey getting the upper part of the banana while the turtle got the lower part. Next is Si Malakas at Si Maganda by Remedios F. Ramos. This is a story of one half-man named Malakas emerged, and from the other half, a woman named Maganda. Then the earthquake called on all the birds and fish to see what should be done with these two, and it was decided that they should marry and had a great number of children. Next is Si Langgam at Si Pagong, written by Virgilio S. Almario. This is a story of an ant who is preparing for the winter by storing up food while the grasshopper is playing around. The grasshopper says he doesn't need to worry with the winter because he has enough food right now. But when the winter comes, he begs for food from the ant. Another is Ang Kwento ng Gamu-Gamu, written by Dr. Jose Rizal. This is a story of a little mouse. Despite of her mother's warning, thus she did not listen and continue to play near the light of the lamp, and soon stuck by its fire. Next is Di Alamat ng Saging, written by Boots S. Agbayani Pastor. This is a story about a girl named Juana. Among her suitors, Juana chose a man with a brawny arms and fingers to be her fiancé. But one of her spurned suitors became envious and made a drastic move. That is the reason why the banana came out. Next is Di Alamat ng Bayabas by Boots S. Agbayani Pastor. This is the story of a King Barabas who was once a teen king. He was hated by his people for his greediness. Instead of helping the other people in their village, he had all the things he asked for, the power, the wealth, and all of the foods that are hard-earned by his men. He is being known as a selfish king. He never shared anything to his lawful kingdom. Next is Alamat ng Durian, written by Boots S. Agbayani Pastor. In this story, the king wanted to win the full-pledged love of his wife, so he consulted to the wise hermit on Mount Apo. He followed the married counsel, except for a very important request. The king throws a big feast, but he forget to invite Impit Purok. In retaliation, Impit casts a curse upon the fruit. That is why we have the Alamat of Durian. Next is the Kwento ni Lola Basyang by Severino Reyes. This Lola Basyang is a timeless tale for the Filipino. The image of elderly grandmother in a rocking chair gathering her apos around her for a bedtime story. Some of Lola Basyang works are Ang Kapatid ng Tatlong Maria, The Magical Violin, and The Prince of the Birds. Lola Basyang is the pen name of Severino Reyes. Another is Juan Tamad by Manuel Estabilo Arguila. This is a story about Juan Tamad, Filipino term for lazy one, who is noted for extreme laziness. One is being lazy to move to climb the tree. He lay down instead under the guava tree and let it drop. He remained there, waiting for the tree to fall into his wide gaping mouth. Next are the classical literature for grade 4 to grade 6. Abadeja, the Philippine Cinderella, written by Mirna de la Paz. Abadeja is a story about a young girl whose father remarries, and her stepmother treats her poorly, makes her work, and threatens to hurt her. The stepmother kills her pet Sarimanok. Abadeja is helped by a spirit of the forest who tells her to bury her chicken's feet and form it in a tree with treasures grow. Next is The Alamat ng Bulkang Mayon, written by Rene O. Villanueva. This is a tragic story of Daragang Magayon and her lover. Next is Cain and Abel. This is based on the Bible story. Next is Mariang Sinukuan by Eugene Evasco. Mariang Sinukuan is a mountain goddess associated with Mount Arayat and with the profusion of the animals there, watching over the needs of the people in nearby town. She used to regularly leave fruits at the doorstep of the locals who needed food, until the locals became greedy and asked for more than what they actually needed. What Mariang Sinukuan did was she stopped leaving food at their doorstep due to their greediness, and no one see her again. Next is Maria Makiling by Jose Rizal. The legend of Maria Makiling is a story about the guardian spirit of the mountain. This story teaches us not all the times we will win, not all the times we will get what we want. That also teaches us to accept failure. Biyag ni Lamang by Pedro Bucaneg. This epic tells about the bravery of Lamang, who was precocious from birth. The adventures begin with his search for his father, who was killed by the Igorot. He meets Sumarang, who tries to stop him and challenge him into a fight. He spears Sumarang through his stomach. Next is Aliguyon by Amador Taguinod Daggio Jr. Hudhud ni Aliguyon is a famous epic that came from the Ifugao province of Luzon in the Philippines. In the village called Hananga, a boy named Aliguyon. Aliguyon showed promise of a great leadership at an early age, which earned the awe and amazement of his fellow villagers. During his teenage years, he decided to go into the battle with his father's enemy, Pangayuan, of the village of Daligdigan. But later on, they became friends. Next is Pinatigil ni Jesus ang matinding bagyo. This is based on the Bible story, Matthew chapter 8 verse 23 to 27. Jesus got into the boat with his disciples. As they sail along the lake, Jesus is sleeping. Suddenly, a violent storm came up, and the waves began to cover the boat. Terrified, the disciples came and woke Jesus up. "Lord, help us, we will sink," they said. But he said to them, "Why are you so afraid? How little faith you have." He got up, he stopped the wind and the waves, and the weather improved. Next is Ang Tsinelas ni Pepe by Dr. Jose Rizal. The story made by our national hero Dr. Jose Rizal teaches us on how to share what we have. We should not only understand ourselves, but also the people we think that need our helps. or our help. As in the story, the one pair of Pepe's slipper fall into the water. Instead of throwing the other pair, he let it fall so that the person who will pick it up can still use it. Next is Alamat ng Sampaguita ni Segundo D. Matias. The legend of Sampaguita is about the two sisters who were both beautiful and were always mistaken for twins, Saling and Sampaga. But because of mysterious old woman, their lives look different courses, while Sampaga always won as a queen of beauty, of various festivities and become the object of fondness of the people. Saling was overcome with envy and planned to take away her sister's good fortune. This story teaches us how helpfulness is rewarded with sweet fragrance of success while envy earns a corresponding penalty. Next is Alamat ng Lanzones by Segundo D. Matias. In a barangay sometime in the old days, there was a hill grew trees with poisonous black fruit. When the barangay was ravaged by the typhoon, and the people had nothing to eat, an old woman, newly arrived in a town, made an attempt to eat the poisonous black fruit, whereupon the people saved from starvation. Next is Dalawang Bayani ng Bansa by Rene O. Villanueva. This book is about the heroism of Jose Rizal and Andres Bonifacio, the two national heroes of the Philippines.
Hi, I am Miss D, your storyteller for today, and I will be reading the story of the boy who cried wolf. This is originally from Aesop's fable and retold by many local writers. The boy who cried wolf. A shepherd boy tended his master's sheep near a dark forest, not far from the village. Soon he found life in the pasture very dull. All he could do to amuse himself was to talk to his dog or play on his shepherd pipe. One day, as he sat watching the sheep in the quiet forest and thinking what he would do should he see a wolf, he thought of a plan to amuse himself. His masters told him to call for help should the wolf attack the flock, and the villagers would drive it away. So now, though he had not seen anything even look like a wolf, he ran toward the village, shouting at the top of his voice, "Wolf! Wolf!" As he expected, the villagers who heard the cry dropped their work and ran in a great excitement to the pasture. But when they got there, they found the boy doubled up with laughter at the trick he had played on them. A few days later, the shepherd boy again shouted, "Wolf! Wolf!" Again, the villagers ran to help him, only to be laughed at again. Then one evening, as the sun was getting behind the forest and the shadows were creeping out over the pasture, a wolf really did spring from the underbrush and fall upon the sheep. In terror, the boy ran toward the village, shouting, "Wolf! Wolf!" But though the villagers heard the cry, they didn't run to help him as they had before. "He cannot fool us again," they said. The wolf killed a great many of the boy's sheep, and then slipped away into the forest.
Moral of the story: liars are not believed even when they speak the truth. Sometimes we are the villagers, we are being fooled by the other people. But sometimes we are the boy, we tell lies to our friends, parents, and other people around us. This story teaches us that if we don't speak the truth or when we are not honest with the other people, we will lose their trust on us, like what happened to the boy. There are instances in our life that we get bored, like what happened to the boy. That's why we throw some jokes or pranks with our classmates or friends to lessen the boredom, or for others, they want an attention. But we should always remember that trust is not easily gained. We should work for it by telling the truth or being honest.